Hey y'all, digital learning day 4 for 8th grade math. I have my sheet pulled up here on my computer and we're looking at day 4. So number 1 says, what is 1 times 10 to the negative 6th power in standard form? So remember, when we have a negative power, we want to move our decimal to the left, which is going to give us a smaller number. So here we start with the number 1, and we're going to go to the left 6 times. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's where our decimal is going to be. And then we're going to fill in with zeros. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros and the number 1. So our answer would be 5 zeros and 1. And that would be 1 times 10 to the negative 6th power. Number 2 just says solve 9 to the 8th power divided by 9 to the 4th power. Remember, our integer exponent operation rules are when you're dividing, you subtract your exponents. So this would be 9 to the 8th minus 4 power, which equals 9 to the 4th power. Now our instructions say solve, so 9 to the 4th power would be 9 times 9 times 9 times 9. And I'm going to pull out my calculator for that, which is 6,561. So we have 6,561 would be our answer. Number 3 says solve for x, show your work. So when I have a multi-step equation like this, the first thing I need to do is look and see if there's any distribution that needs to be done, and there is. So I have negative 8 times negative 8x. A negative times a negative is a positive. So it's going to be positive 64x. And then I've got to do, I did that, now I've also got to do this. So negative 8 times negative 6 is going to be a positive 48 equals negative 6x minus 22. Now I need to get my x terms on one side of the equation. So here I'm going to zero out this x term by adding 6x. And whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. That creates a zero pair. And I'm left with 70x plus 48 equals negative 22. And then I want to get my constant term to one side of the equation. So I'm going to create a zero pair here, subtracting 48, but I need to also subtract 48 from this side. So I've got 70x equals negative 22 minus 48, which is negative 70. Now x is being multiplied by 70. So my inverse operation is to divide by 70. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. 70 over 70 creates 1. So I'm left with 1x equals negative 70 divided by 1 is going to be negative 1. So x equals negative 1. I need to make sure I go back over here and check my work. So I would have negative 8 times negative 8 times negative 1, since x is negative 1, minus 6 on one side of my equation, and that would be positive 8 minus 6, which is 2. Negative 8 times 2 is negative 16 equals, and then on the other side of my equation, I have negative 6 times negative 1 minus 22. So negative 16 equals negative 6 times negative 1 is positive 6 minus 22 And positive 6 minus 22 is negative 16. So I have negative 16 equals negative 16. So I know my answer of x equals negative 1 is correct. I'm trying to wipe my camera off real quick. Looks blurry. And then number 4 says, the camera won't cooperate here. Okay, number 4 says the sum of 3 consecutive numbers is 78. What is the smallest of the 3 numbers? The way that I know how to do this problem is to do x, which is my first number, plus x plus 1 plus x plus 2. That would be 3 consecutive numbers. So let's just say if this number was 3, then 3 plus 1 would be 4, and 3 plus 2 would be 5. So that's how you get 3 consecutive numbers and set that equal to 78. Now I need to combine like terms. So I have x plus x plus x is 3x, and then I have 1 plus 2 is 3, and all of that's equal to 78. Now I have a normal 2-step equation where I can solve for x. So I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides, and I have 3x. This creates a 0 pair, so I have 3x equals 78 minus 3, which is 75. X is being multiplied by 3, so I need to do the inverse operation of divide by 3, and I get x equals 75 divided by 3, which is 25. So the smallest of those 3 consecutive numbers is 25, and I can go back and check that by saying 25 plus 26 plus 27 should equal 78. And I'll add all that in my calculator. 25 plus 26 plus 27 equals 78. So 78 equals 78. And number 5 says, a rectangular box has a length of 6 feet, a width of 10 feet, and a height of 15 feet. What is the length of the diagonal of the rectangular box? So we're talking about 3D Pythagorean theorem here. That is a question that we would have to utilize our 3D Pythagorean theorem. So the formula for 3D Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared plus c squared equals d squared, where d is our diagonal. A, b, and c are our length, height, and width, which are 6, 10, and 15. So I have 6 squared plus 10 squared plus 15 squared equals d squared. 6 squared is 36, 10 squared is 100, and 15 squared is 225, and all that equals d squared. Then I have 36 plus 100 plus 225 equals 361. So 361 equals d squared. Now our whole goal is to get d on a side by itself. D is not on a side by itself. Right now it's d squared. In order to undo d squared, or do the inverse of d squared, I have to take the square root. But whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. So the square root of d squared would be d, and the square root of 361 is 19. So the diagonal of that rectangular box is 19 feet. So I should have put a unit of measurement there of feet. Y'all have a good day.